Drinking my Strange World juice.
All right. We are talking about Strange World, the latest Disney animated film, the first to ever lose money, most likely.
Actually, 20 years ago to this day, Treasure Planet came out and also bombed.
Oh, yeah. I like that movie.
That movie's great.
I like Atlantis more, though, if I'm honest.
Atlantis is also really good.
It is good.
All right. So, full spoilers. You've been warned. Pause this. Stop this. Do whatever you do to avoid the spoilers or not. We can't control your lives. But if you don't want to know anything about this movie, stop it now. So if you're still here, full spoilers. You've been warned. What do we think about this?
Pause menu. I had a great time. I was predispositioned. That's the word. This is a movie I've wanted Disney to make for a long time. The closest movie that has come to it is Up, where them going to a fantastical world. I love old school pulpy shit, like old school adventure comics, old school Journey to the Center of the Earth, and that kind of stuff. Not so much the modern stuff, just because I don't think it's as good. But I love, especially like old pulpy comics, like the credits of this movie, the opening credits, I loved a lot. I think it looks great. I love the characters. The third act twist, it made me like the movie even more. I just wish the script was better. I think it's a pretty generic script. That is and it sucks because it's like what the whole movie's based on is like the script, right? But like, it is one of those movies where we've talked about some other movies this year that are kind of like it, but this is like the best version of that. Where like, if this script were better, it would be in my top 10. I love what this movie's doing. I just wish what they were saying was just a little sharper, a little more, not cutting edge, but a little another round on the script, maybe to give it just a little more punch, because it felt pretty generic at times with what they're saying. But I think the emotions that are happening on screen and the performances are excellent.
Sparks or Ben?
I would essentially repeat pretty much what Ryan said. I think the world's very well visualized and brought to life and thought through, and the characters are very good. The performances are good. The tone of it is great, and I like what the arcs are, but I think Ryan's right. Like, it is a simplistic and in a lot of ways predictable script that I think does drag it down a little.
Yeah. You know, when I walked out of Strange World last night, I walked out of there liking it. I was like, man, that was pretty good. I had a fun time. But there was just something in the back of my head. I was like, there's something about this movie that I'm not raving about. It's still good. And then Ryan nailed it on the head when he said it was bad. It could have been a better script. And I agree, because the more I think about it, it's like, oh yeah, there were some pretty corny lines. I mean, there were some great action pieces. The twist at the end I thought was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But everything leading up to that, it was kind of like paint. It felt like a very paint by numbers family adventure story. And it's like, not to say that we haven't seen that before, but it's definitely like, I've seen this. I know where this is going to go. Mm-hmm. And he's going to say the same. It's like, I was like sitting there going, it's like, we'll get into it, but it's like, when that's going to happen, it's going to happen, but the roles are going to be reversed.
Yeah.
I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I was really excited for the movie because it felt like they were hearkening back to what we were honestly just talking about, your Treasure Planets, your Atlantis, the Lost Empires. I really thought this movie was trying to kind of recapture what makes those movies really fun, those type of adventure movies that I adore. Frankly, I love Atlantis, the Lost Empire. It is, for me, top 10, top 5, maybe Disney films of all time. So I'm all in on this kind of idea, but watching it, it's got all the elements that I feel like it needs to have, but it's missing that like X factor to push it over the edge, to push it into that kind of fun adventure film that those movies are for me. It's just missing that one. The X factor is, it's that one thing. The
little bit of magic that pushes it over to be like, oh, this is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking about it right now, and I've been thinking about it since we saw it. And the main problem in the script that I see is that the movie knows Ethan is the main character, but it thinks the main character is Searcher. And because it constantly brings us back to...
That's a good point,
to Searcher's arc, rather than letting Ethan's fully flourish, Ethan is never truly our center character. Like it's about Ethan's like growth and his relationship with Searcher evolving beyond what Searcher's has been with his father. But it's that through the lens of Searcher, not through the lens of Ethan.
Yeah,
Sure.
When it should have been through the lens of Ethan about Searcher and his dad.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
very
agree
much, you know what? Because like, sorry, real quick, Brandon. Sorry. The moment where they're on the little bike and they go into the mist and they're sitting facing away from each other, I was like, okay, Goofy movie, gotcha. Because it's the moment when they're on the car, and I think that's very apt. But the reason I think that's so apt is because Goofy movie is from Max's perspective.
Yeah,
it is Max. Like we see scenes with Goofy that don't have Max in them, but the movie is favoring Max's lens. This one is favoring Searcher's. And that's where I think it's not working with itself, because it's really Ethan. It's really about Ethan.
It's trying to have, it's trying to do two arcs at the same time, but it's not choosing on who you want the story to actually be about.
Because it's trying to feed Searcher's relationship to his son and his father as the main story point, when it should be Ethan's relationship to Searcher, and through that, how that has been affected by Searcher's relationship to his father, not also serving that story. That's not to say like you can't have important scenes between Searcher and his dad, or that you shouldn't be following up on that story, but it should still be about how that has affected Ethan.
Yeah.
And coming back to that as the center point. And I think that's really where it falters, is that we're constantly being kind of turned away from where the story feels like it belongs.
I wonder if perhaps I don't mind throwing this guy under the bus. I don't know what I'm saying. I wonder if perhaps Chapek prevented it, because Ethan is, honestly, Disney can say whatever they want. Ethan is their first gay character. He is the first character who is explicitly gay on screen, is acknowledged as being gay from the start of the movie, and that is about, and his arc is about, partially about he is in love with a boy. Like that's really cool. But I do wonder if perhaps Chapek prevented it from being a story about him entirely, and pushed it to be more about Searcher.
Yeah.
Speculation. I don't know that's true. I don't mind throwing him under the bus like that, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I wonder. Mag's right. I leaned over to Sparks and I was like, "Is that Sellers like a tan that they're playing?" I that's a fun game. I'm like, I really do like the movie. It's just like, it's just too formulaic at times for me. And I'm like, I think you are right. Like I was super invested in Ethan and like him becoming like him being an explorer like his grandfather, and like the drama between like how his dad, he doesn't want him to grow up like his dad, like the same thing that's happening with him with Searcher and Jaeger. Like I think that's all great. I think it was just too like, we saw it coming. We knew what was going to happen. Oh, they're going to get a new argument, and then Ethan's going to hang out with Jaeger and they're going to get along, and that's going to make it more dramatic. Like it just felt like A to B to C, but everything else surrounding it I adore. I really do. I love the world, and the reveal that it's a giant creature that put the movie over to me of like, I think this is a pretty good movie that just has that. It bums me out that like it's like formulaic, because I think everything else surrounding it's incredible.
I'm thinking about my own relationship with both my father and his father, and how my dad hated his dad from the moment like once I was in the world. No, I'm sorry. Once I was 3, that is when their relationship turned to a hate for each other. It had nothing to do with me. There's something else that happened that I won't go into here. But they developed this deep resentment for each other. But my grandfather loved me and wanted to have a relationship with me. So what happened is that I'd get these different kinds of narratives about who the other one was in their eyes. And that's kind of what we should have had with Ethan. We should have had this like, who the grandfather thinks Searcher is to him, and who Searcher thinks his father is to him. And especially with that 25-year gap, like not even knowing who they are anymore.
You know what I think one of the problems is? I expected Jaeger to show up way later in the movie. He showed up really early. He shows up in the first act. And I think we needed more time with Ethan and Searcher about their relationship to show that is the same relationship he had with his father. And that like he's doing it unknowingly. So when Jaeger does show up, he's like, "You're just doing what I did. Like we are the same person."
I hear you, and I don't entirely disagree, I guess, but I do think like I was like you. I thought Jaeger was going to show up later. When Jaeger showed up, I was actually relieved.
Yeah.
Felt like that was bucking away from formula.
Okay.
That he's usually going to be like, I expected him to be a late second act reveal.
Yeah.
Um,
Like the mom.
but the fact that he gets there,
dragon.
but the fact that he gets there in there early means that those relationships are brought to the surface immediately.
That's true.
I do think it's just all about like, it didn't want to take a lot of time defining Ethan's relationship with the two men individually.
Mm-hmm.
It wanted to use Ethan in between them defining their relationship, and that's where I don't think it excels at the story that it had on its hands.
Yeah.
Ethan's great. The whole family's great. I'm really glad that you get the mom coming back in, because I didn't want them to leave her at the farm.
Yeah, she's a great pilot.
I knew they wouldn't, because I'm sure I've seen her in another part of the trailer.
Yeah.
But I got nervous. I'm like, no way, right? I really like the queer representation is nice, because it's just treated as just there it is. Like Ethan gets just as flustered, flirtatious around a crush as we've seen any boy or girl in a Disney property do before.
Yeah.
It's not it's treated
It's
correctly.
just how life is. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I think I think what we're talking about with the script stuff, I do think that's like, there's a lot of kind of generic moments. There's some really nice gems. Like I really do like, it's one of the better scenes, I think, between Searcher and Jaeger, which is when they have the drinks.
Yeah.
And what he says about how he views the farm and how he
I get
views
that.
the legacy for his kid. And all Jaeger says is, I get that, and I get that too. And it's actually, it's very on the nose, but it is conveying all this emotion about what they, again, like how they have differently perceived the relationship that they've had. And you could have gotten more of that through Ethan instead of through Searcher.
100%. Because that moment's great, because you think that's a moment where Jaeger's going to be like, you know what? Like, I did mess up and I'm going to change. He's like, oh, too old. Can't do anything about it, I guess. And I'm like, damn, that felt real.
Sparks, you're about to say something in regards to that. I want to go back. So if you have something to comment on that.
Well, I was just gonna say real quick, because like what it is, just in that is that Ethan, like when Ethan has the blow up at Searcher, and says, I don't want to be you, kind of moment. Like it's a opening up for resolution between their relationship, right? But it's treated in this way where, because he has guided like Searcher to that, Searcher isn't ever kind of given credence to the resolution path for his relationship with his dad is more than just like blaming him, but actually understanding him. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They could have done more of that for sure. Yeah.
So a little whiles back, Ryan, you mentioned how the dad is introduced really early. I don't necessarily think the issue is that the dad is introduced really early. It is interesting to me how quickly the movie gets to, okay, we're going to the strange world because of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I needed it to go any longer. It was just a little jarring that we spend so little time in the town. And I think they do a fine job of kind of getting you familiar with the town, and kind of this crop. I don't know. It was just like you said, Ryan. It was surprising that Jaeger shows up so early. It was surprising that we went to the strange world so early. We're still in the first act when we go to the strange world. I thought that would be the second act thing.
I suppose I prefer spending more time in the not that Avalonia isn't beautiful, but like I think I personally want to spend more time in the crazy world than the regular world, because that's just more interesting. And we see enough of the world to know that it is incredibly different and magical in its own way. So like it's air powered electric grapes.
I want to be really quickly clear that I was not making it a criticism. I was just saying it was surprising.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I didn't find it surprising, because like when I think of like all these other movies, like I don't want to spend an hour on Earth only to spend 30 minutes in a strange world. Like I when I go to a movie like this, I want more magical than real. Mm-hmm. That's personally.
It is worth noting, I think, that this might be Disney Animation's shortest film in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at 1 hour and 42.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%. I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't need to look them up. But I do think that there's an amount of just trimmed fat here.
Yeah.
And I do think it's helping the film more than it's hurting it. There's not necessarily things where I feel like, oh, I need more time or I needed this expanded on, blah, blah, blah. I just needed different kinds of moments to happen inside of the story they were already telling.
Yeah. Ben, do you have anything to add before we move on to anything?
Or before
not really. What?
Nothing.
No, we were just making a joke about your sleepiness.
No, I really don't have anything to add on that whole bit. I didn't think
you don't have to. If you have nothing, you don't have to say anything.
Nah, I got nothing.
I want to talk about something real quick. So part of the thing of like part of I think the surprise comes from two plot points that I think are kind of messy in the movie, specifically. And I if you guys disagree, that's fine. I think the reveal of the like grape thing, of the electric grape thing being one organism is very sloppily handled. When being like, as we know, it's one organism. Okay. The other thing is, I think the president's weird turn that all of a sudden she's evil for a minute doesn't work for me. All of a sudden she's just like, yeah, you're wrong. We're going to kill all these creatures and we're going to do this thing. There is nothing in this character that has shown me that she would make that turn up until this point. And she does it so briefly that it almost seems like she just hiccuped into a different person for just a minute.
You know what? I completely forgot about that turn. You're absolutely right. That's actually one of my major problems with this movie is the president.
It's just weird because then it's like immediately resolved.
I personally disagree. I don't find it villainous. I think they are 9.9 tenths of the way to complete their journey, and she's one of those people where like, I'm not a scientist. You are. So like, if you like, I'm gonna do the things my way. You do things your way. Like I just found her. She was determined to win, and like at the final breaths.
I do feel strongly about this to kind of push back a little bit.
Okay.
The thing about what you said is like she acknowledges she is not a scientist. She is bringing Searcher along because he is the expert here, and she never portrays an air that she is ever willing to go against what Searcher is trying to do. And Searcher, she's been trusting Searcher all the way up until this point. She brought him in there, and we get so little character work with her. That I think probably could have been fixed by introducing her before not in the flashback, but like introducing her status quo as the president in the real world for a minute, to all of a sudden kind of making this turn into this desperate villain antagonist force was just honestly not necessarily a horrible way to go. I understand why they did it. It's just for me sloppy.
I'll tell you what, I will agree about the characterization, how there isn't much depth to there. I don't have a problem with the villain turn just because like I think she's someone who would like do anything to finish the mission. But I will agree that there's not enough setup to make to fully embrace that. So I'll agree with that. Sure.
It's also to me like that it wasn't handled in a way where I didn't feel like she'd suddenly become villainous or anything. I felt like she responded in I think a more. I agree about the character point. I just want to get that out of the way. I agree about the characterization. I could have used more of it with her. But maybe I'm giving the movie too much credit. But I think that's a very baked-in human response for something. We are given enough information earlier on to know that this society now basically thrives off of this plant, and they no longer know what they can do if they don't have it. To the point where they panic and mention it on the radio and say, "You better wake up, farmers! Get that electricity going, because otherwise we're going back to horse and buggy." And I'm never doing that again because apparently that was the worst thing in the world. And I think that idea of what Searcher is saying about how they live is so bombastic and world-breaking that to react in fear, because in tandem with that idea of, by the way, whole world, back of a giant animal.
He is very extreme about how he presents it.
And then saying, like, we have to destroy our one source of energy. We have to just get rid of it. I think the impulsive decision when you've been locked in a mission and say, no, obviously the enemies are the monsters that have actively attacked us, for that to be her immediate response, I don't think is wrong. I I think it feels like a very human thing. And it also comes down to, like, once they get her to a place where she can see the heart itself as the heart, that she's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even said. Like, she sees it and she understands that, okay, so we like this is the alternative of us saving our energy sources. We will ultimately all die. Got it.
But she locks the whole family in a broom cupboard.
What else are you going to do with them? If
Talk
you know
to
that
them.
they're going to, if you know that they're going to try and like steer the ship away from the mission that you are trying to complete, you got to put them somewhere.
There's nothing. There was nothing in the movie that suggests to me that she wouldn't immediately talk to them first.
I hear you. I do hear you. I just think they're in a high stakes situation. I think that is a very in crisis mode human response that I think is logical. I agree that we could have had more character moment to give the inklings of that's how she would respond in a crisis, but I do think it is a crisis response that makes sense.
Maybe if there was another crisis that introduced that aspect in the movie, I would feel happy about that. But it's sloppy. It's just, in my opinion, it's just sloppy.
Yeah, that's fine. What was the other one?
Oh, this is the whole thing is the back of a giant organism. No, not the back of a giant organism. The plant that we know as many plants is actually just one giant plant in the center of the earth. We're gonna go save it.
Do they? I just assumed they sent. No. Yeah, I guess
They say we already sent a research team because they've been studying the plants.
Yeah.
So they'd already tracked the roots all the way to this hole.
Okay.
They brought Searcher in because they got to this point.
Yeah. Okay. So
But like that's how they explain it is that later, like, you know, we've learned already that it's all connected into this root system.
They have like when she's explaining that, we show the scene of the researchers going there to better help the audience understand that.
I don't think there's a fix for that one. I don't think there's actually anything inherently wrong with that sort of exposition. Again, it's just kind of one of those things where we look at the script, where it feels like it's just a sloppy moment of the script. We have to get this information to the audience some way, so let's do it this way. I don't know if there's a better way to do it. It just, for me, felt sloppy.
Well, it's also like when you think about it, like their information is wrong. They assume it is a one organism, right? Mm-hmm. It isn't. It is a bunch of branches that are just leading to go strangle the heart. Like it's just an invasive virus of some kind that is looking to kill the creature. Mm-hmm. And it has gone from where they've planted it to dig in and connect and go all the way for the heart, rather than actually being like they're technically wrong. So, yeah.
I care about to say about more of that. There's nothing I care to say about more for that aspect of it, honestly.
I was really enjoying the movie. Once we got to the third act and it turned into this is a living creature, and it's an immune system, and these are blood vessels, and this is white blood cells attacking to like stop a virus. Like the negatives of the movie became lesser to me because I was really enjoying what was happening, especially that final act of like the thousands of squiggy monsters going after Ethan and the blood pterodactyls. I just thought it was really, really cool. And it's like, when this is a $180 million movie and it looks incredible. And I love that final act. I wish getting there, some of the words they were, I wish they didn't say I got this 4 times in this movie, guys. Let me tell you.
I wish, honestly, my biggest roll my eyes is that every time when the president says, we came here to save Pando, I feel like she says that 5 billion times and I was like, shut up. We know.
Ben, can you bring up Mag's latest comment, please?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I can. Any favorite creatures or designs?
It's 100% the deer-bodied thing that pops a fan out of its head.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I do think Splat is a lot of fun. There's this scene where Splat is leading Ethan's character to his death.
Yeah.
And when Ethan helps Splat, Splat's like, oh wait, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Don't kill him.
My favorite part of this movie is actually when the evil monster eats like the helicopter, the gyro, the helicopter thing, and then has the little like helicopter hat, and he just stops the guy from touching it. That was very funny.
I think those are probably my favorite, or the rocks that turn into the tentacles.
As far as my favorite, it's the little light little things that like create help fix the heart at the end. There's something else in That
They
like the
regrow what he burns.
Yeah.
yeah, I thought those were very pretty. I really like those little creatures. I think they're very cute and very
And
pretty.
they're like,
And I
they come off like giant brontosaurus looking tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
thought
The
that was really cool.
little dudes in the burning sea, those little green dudes that help. Those
are cute.
Guides. Those were adorable. I was like, man, that's
the
cute.
acid sea. I've read and watched so much fantasy shit. And I don't know how many times I've ever seen an acid ocean before. Like that's such a cool idea. I love that idea.
So
when did you? Stomach. It makes sense because it's his stomach and like it's the body. I love it.
Did you guys figure out that they were inside an organism early on, or did the reveal tell you?
No, surprisingly, I'm usually good about this shit. No, I thought it was going to be Journey to the Center of the Earth. Like
I started to assume when they had the bit where Ethan is talking with Splat and he's looking up at the trees and they're all breathing in and breathing out.
Yeah.
And then I thought back to when when Searcher referred to the plants as the Pando as a heartbeat. And I was like, okay,
makes sense. This
is probably at least all connected in one way, if not a living organism.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really talked about it myself, but like Ryan's talked about it a lot. Like, I want to agree. Like, I think the twist in this movie is insane in a really good way. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that they just that at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, they reveal they're actually on the back of a giant turtle.
You know what this is? This is a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool that they went that direction, and it's honestly the most interesting creative choice that they make in the movie. Because if they don't have that, it's still a pretty good movie. So,
yeah.
But the fact that they did that was like, again, insane in a good way. I don't often see such a major twist like that in this. And when they zoom out at the end to just see that. You know, I'm sure maybe there's others behind the earth, but like that it's this lone creature in the sea, in the orb of ocean is really cool. I thought that was awesome.
To your point, as their best creative decision, I think it is in the case of how it makes every other creative decision, especially in terms of like how the world is or the creatures and what they do, it all makes it great because what looks like randomness all becomes cohesive, clear nods to specific things, elements of the internal workings of an organism. And I think that's where the genius of it lies, is that on the surface, like when we first saw the trailers, none of us suspected that that's what this was. It all just looks like weird Dr. Seuss crap. And you get to it and they've now made it so like you can one-to-one anything in the movie and be like, it's kind of an adaptation of this or that. Yeah. As Ryan was saying, with white blood cells, with the blood vessels, with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The more well, obviously when I was watching this movie, the more I was seeing the creatures, the more I was seeing all the organisms, I was noticed, because I knew it like from the trailers, like we saw these fantastical creature designs. And the more I'm watching this, like they don't have eyes, mouths, they don't have really anything. They look more like cells. They look more like body parts or internal organs.
Cell has a mouth. Cell has a mouth.
Well, you know,
he's got two.
He's got two mouths.
And not that cell, damn it. Not that cell. But yeah, the more I'm watching, and then of course when they go outside and they see the eye, I'm like, oh, this makes much more sense.
Oh, I love that. Oh my god, I love that shot so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that. I really do like that shot.
I have two more notes. Oh, actually three. I'll agree with Sparks earlier. Earlier you said like that the mom comes down with them. Excellent scene, honestly. Really great introduction to that character for the mission specifically.
I think we get a lot of good stuff with her. What I found myself like really thinking about that I really enjoyed was how new this world, their concept of world is, like all this technology that they have. Like it's 25 years that they've developed all this. And so the concept of flying is new. And that she's taken to it, that it's something that she loves so much. And then she has that bit where she says, if that one thing can protect the other two, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think they gave her a really good presence in the movie without like sidelining her into too much. As weak as the script can be, like I think she has a good presence without becoming generic mom.
Yeah. Let's talk about the performances real quick. Dennis Quaid and Lucy Liu are both doing incredible work and work that I've never heard them do before. I didn't know Lucy Liu could sound like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything she's ever done where she doesn't have kind of a beautiful, like, sweet voice, and she's like really raspy. And I'm like, bro, she's a voice actor. Like, Lucy Liu, you're killing it. Dennis Quaid, he turned into Harrison Ford. You said it. He turns into Harrison Ford in this movie. I'm like, damn, like, you're really good, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid's clearly not phoning it in.
Yeah.
And he's acting, and Lucy Liu, to her credit, like, is acting. I think the rest of the voice cast is very good, but I think those two prominently stood out to me as, like, they're delivering some real performances.
Doing something different.
These are some real performances from them. They put work into these, and I can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. On that note, Alan Tudyk has 3 voices in this movie.
Of course he does.
And that was very fun because they happen in kind of succession. He's the guy who announces who narrates the flashback.
He's the narrator. He's the
radio host.
Yes.
And the first pilot who's killed.
First pilot, yeah.
Who gets killed?
Yes.
Yeah, who gets killed. Good for him. Get that check.
Get your Disney paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. I like that. I don't want the movie to have explored this idea too far, but what I do like about this movie for like being family entertainment kind of thing, a Disney film, what I do think it's doing very, very well is like it's also telling an idea of like we kind of referenced it earlier with White Noise, that it is doing this idea of kind of challenging like, okay, to make it so that everyone's lives can keep going forward, like save your world. How much are you willing to give up of what you consider a luxury or a comfort? How much are you willing to change? Like, this is very much like, an environmental challenge, right? Like it can one-to-one to climate change of like, how much of the luxuries you have are you willing to sacrifice when the world is on the line kind of thing, which again, like is why I was already thinking about that as the film was unfolding its story about what the danger of losing Pando could mean to them. So when
fossil fuel.
So when Callisto's turn on them came, I was already in the mindset of thinking about that. So that's what I plant to her as well, is this idea of in a knee-jerk reaction, not willing to part with it. Too addicted to it. Would not.
My last note on this, I think I'm pretty much done after that. There's a scene that I actually really like. It's the scene when the bad monsters are attacking the ship and they're throwing the Pando balls and Searcher can't throw, and they use Cade, right? Cade?
Jaeger.
Not Cade? Jaeger Cade.
From another movie, but his name is Jaeger.
Jaeger Cade. I thought it was Cade Yeager. It's Jaeger Cade.
Their last names are the Clades.
We're the Clades.
Okay. I really like that they use that as like a teachable moment and kind of like a bonding moment. It's a very sweet father-son scene.
Cade Yeager is Marky Mark in Transformers.
You're right. I hate that you reminded me about that.
I hate that I know that.
I really like that scene. Also, I like the scene where they're playing what's the Catan?
Outpost,
Primal
Outpost.
Yeah, I think that's a sweet scene, but I do really like the scene with they're throwing the Pando at the monsters.
Not only do I think the Primal Outpost is a good scene, but I also think that it's telling you right there again, like kind of on the nose, but I think it's fine for a Disney film where Ethan again should be our primary character. Is saying there are no bad guys. There is no bad guy to this game. It's
I should have
living harmoniously with your environment.
That's what I should have known. Right there, yeah.
Like you kill this monster and you lose because this other thing shows up, and like they're not necessarily your enemy just because they look scary.
Yeah.
And I thought that was well interwoven as to like cue you into what the theme of what the film was trying to do was.
I think, despite the script, I think there are a lot of really like wholesome, great family moments. Like the beginning of the movie with them like cooking food and dancing together. I think it's really cute and fun. The dog, maybe one of the best dogs in a movie.
So
he's just a dog.
We talked about it. I'm really happy with the dog because the dog is just a dog. The dog isn't particularly good at anything. The dog doesn't like save the day by smelling out something or some bullshit. dog literally acts like if you put my dog on the ship and lets a dumb thing get on its face and puts everything in its mouth and isn't very constructive in a crisis and constantly puts itself at a point where it's going to put itself in danger.
Almost dies.
I found I think one or two moments to be really funny in this movie. One of them was when they're all locked in the broom cupboard and Splat goes out to unlock the door and then goes back in and everyone's like, what?
That's probably my favorite. That's probably the funniest moment I think in this movie. And then the door opens and they're just like, what?
That was really good. All right. Anything else?
Yes. The moment on the ship, when she's staring uncomfortably at her son, she's like, I'm your mom, I'm allowed to do that. It's just it's nice seeing you in your element, you becoming the person you're supposed to be. I think that's a really great moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really great moments. I think you just needed one more pass on that script, and like this movie would have been like, I think, really special, because I think in parts it already is. It's just like sometimes what they say is a little generic.
I think they do a really good job with Splat as well. I wanted to highlight that I'm really appreciative that they don't do a lot of like lassying with Splat, where they're explaining what they are interpreting from Splat. And what it means is that sometimes you don't know what Splat is saying. Like sometimes you'll get the intent ultimately, but some of Splat's gestures might go over your head and it might not be clear to you. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just glad that both Splat and Legend were never used for the purposes of kind of trying to sell merchandise necessarily directly, or to give you the comedic relief, or felt like they were just forced in. They felt like natural little pieces of the story that didn't necessarily like take away from the elements they were just supposed to be.
Yeah.
Also, just, like an interesting choice, but I think a welcome one, like ableism and disability representation is nice to see, even if it's still through a dog. Three-legged dog. Three-legged dogs deserve love. I'm surprised they did it, but it's nice. It's a nice thing. It's a three-legged dog, and everybody just loves that dog, and that dog has love, and that dog lives a perfectly fine life.
And it's not like the dog's suffering or he needs help all the time to like make you feel bad for it. It's just like, no, that dog's just living his life, bro.
Notably, one of the times they do a delivery, and it's a small thing, it's a bit character, it's a side piece, but like they didn't have to do it. They still thought about it. Is that they show someone in a wheelchair that is using the Pando to help it, and like these are things they considered. And so it's just nice that more and more of that gets to show up, because like a lot of people don't get to see themselves even in small moments or small ways acknowledged like that.
Yep.
I figured out through the discussion of the dog what the first scene was that I really liked, that I really laughed out loud at. It's when the dog is looking at the table and Ethan's having a conversation with her parents, and so every time it cuts to Ethan and the dog's point of view, more of the breakfast is gone, and the dog has more of it on his face. I thought that was very
it's a good gag. Good gag.
And I can't you kind of touch on it. I can't leave this without talking about how much I absolutely loved every time they went into a different art style, the different pulpy looks, the comic looks, all the different things that they did for different moments and different style choices, and the closing credits as well. Like all of it really, really beautiful, really, really nice to have. I'm glad they made those stylistic shifts where they did.
Shall I rate?
Yes. Ben, why don't you go first?
I'm going to give it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Still pretty good, even though a lot of the ending saves it. Like the ending twist where it's a big giant animal, they're living on the back of this giant turtle in a world of water, that saves it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's still a very generic movie. I mean, beautifully animated. The creatures are absolutely stunning, and it looks good. But like Ryan, like you said, another script could have done another round or so.
Mm-hmm.
Or the script could have done a different round, and we probably would have, that score would have jumped.
So 7.
Yeah.
Sparks, right?
Now, how about you go?
I'm kind of teetering between a 6.5 and a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's missing something to get me to really like it, and it's noticeably missing it. It's not like maybe there's it's like, no, there is something missing here that's just like, it's not jiving with me 100% like I wish it would.
Yeah.
But that said, I think the performances are good. We talked about it. We talked about the things I liked. I think there's some good laugh out loud funny moments. I like the reveal a lot. 7. I'll say 7.
Yeah, I very much this whole movie, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good 7.5. Yeah, this is a pretty decent movie. Once we got to the third act, this is also again a movie very much catered to me. Like I like these types of movies, so like I want them to be better than they maybe even are. But I think there's a lot here. So once we got to that third act, the 7.5 became an 8. So mine's an 8.
Sparks.
I wish that the arc between Searcher and his father had been handled a bit better, but I do really like that they have the line exchange where he, kind of sarcastically says, "'Cause I'm a horrible father," and he comes back with, "Yes, but you didn't have to be."
Oh, it's so good. Oh my God. It's so rough.
There are things about that arc that I think could have fed into that moment better, but the fact that it's there, I think, is really nice. I'm endeared to the performances and the ambition, so I'm gonna say for me it's an 8. I admire more of the swings they took, even where they might have whiffed and not quite gotten it perfect.
All right, shall we go into our book club?
It's time to go to sleep.